What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Six-Man Show. It is January 4th, 2021. Happy New Year. As always, last year, this year, I am joined by my co-host, Luke Sylvia. Luke, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. You hanging in there, or what's up? Do you feel New Year, new you, or what?
No, New Year, same me. Last year was the first year I think I've ever met my New Year's resolution. So my New Year's resolution going into 2020, because I was basically sick from like the middle of August, and then it was like every other 2 weeks I was sick with something in 2019, like the last 4 months. So my New Year's resolution going into last year was that I was going to be healthier. So at some point during the year, I lost like 20 pounds, and I gained like 10 pounds back. So that's like 12 pounds for the year. I'm okay with that. And then I didn't get sick, Luke, not even once all year long last year.
You got right.
I got right. So if anyone is sickly out there and you're wondering how I did it, let me tell you. Multivitamins, elderberry, which has got like vitamin C and zinc in it.
Is this an ad?
This is an ad. I took like a vitamin B complex, like 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Like they tell you take as much vitamin C as you can, have diarrhea, and then take a little bit less, and you're good right there. So I never got the runs.
Okay.
But
Man, we're off to a hot start. Holy cow.
I did a pretty good job. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah. How about you, Luke? New Year, new you, or what?
I don't have any fun stories like that. I don't know. I mean, I want to try to eat a little healthier. You know, at times working in sports, and that's what I do for my full-time job, and work at a university and sports. You know, there's not really much time off, not really any time to kind of just, you know, sit down and eat a nice meal. Usually I'm always just kind of, you know, right before the show, I was just eating real quick, stuff in my face so we can get to recording. And, you know, it's hard to eat a little healthier when you're just kind of like, oh, there's a Chick-fil-A there. I've got some points on my app. I could deal with this. And then, you know, it doesn't translate well to the scale.
You have the Chick-fil-A app? You have the app?
Do you?
When you
don't
have fast
the
food
app?
apps, that's when you know you have an issue. I do not have the app.
I only have Chick-fil-A, all right? So it's crazy,
All right.
dude. You go to Chick-fil-A. This is not an ad. I wish it was. Chick-fil-A sponsor us. So you go to the drive-thru. You put your order in, right? And you get to the window, or you tell them your order. You have points. There's like a point system. You can scan a QR code. You can get free stuff. During the early start of December, they did like Christmas daily type thing. They gave me like a medium fry one day, a free chicken sandwich the next day. You just scan the QR code. I mean, what can you say?
What more can you ask for?
You build up points. I don't know. Regardless, that is part of my problem. Might have to delete the app. I don't know. Regardless, it's really easy to make excuses when you work in sports and when you have a newborn now and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's probably my main thing is just eat a little healthier. Lauren's always done a good job with cooking when we have time. And, yeah, so her cooking game's pretty elite. So I'm hoping that I can get more of her meals in this year.
So those of you watching this episode on YouTube, you might be noticing I'm not wearing my typical Magic attire. I'm wearing my Giants jersey right now.
Still blue.
In the back, go blue, still blue. In the background, I have the Eagles versus the Redskins playing right now. If the Eagles beat the Redskins, the Giants are in the playoffs. Right now, I think the Eagles are down 10-0, so it's not looking good, Luke. This is the first time in my life that I am rooting for the Eagles to beat anyone, and I know that this week you had a sad football story as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Did I have a sad football story?
The Gators, come on.
Yes, I did, but you know, I'm gonna use the Dan Mullen. I didn't really care, you know, treating it like a spring game. That's
right.
kind of to the effect of what he said. So there's that.
Well, your boy was fired, wasn't he? Wasn't he let go? The defensive coordinator?
No. So the rumor is that they're letting go like people on the defensive staff, but who knows? I don't know if Grantham's actually gonna get fired. He should. He cost us the season because that defense was horrific. Yeah. So all that to say, after the SEC championship game, after we lost to Bama, I knew that everybody was gonna opt out. Kyle Pitts and Trey Grimes and Kadarius Toney. I mean, all of our pass catchers opted out. So feel sorry for Kyle Trask that he even played and that he had to go out that way. But I mean, whatever. Kyle Trask going to hopefully go get paid. I hope he does.
Can
he opted
Dan
for the
Mullen
draft. He announced it. So
can he even afford to not fire Grantham at this point? Like, what does that say about him if he's willing to bring that guy back? Like, what does that say about how badly you want to win?
It says a lot about how badly you don't want to be wrong. And
they're
good
fair
buddies.
Enough.
And I think he doesn't want to look dumb, but he looked very
Luke,
silly
if you were
this year.
dragging this if this was an award-winning podcast potentially, which it's not, but if you were the reason pulling it down, you'd be gone in a heartbeat. We're good buddies. You'd be gone.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen needs to do the right thing by the fans, by the players that decide to go there, and needs to get y'all a legit DC. It's not good for my boy's mental health.
It's not. It's really not. But yeah, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Today, Schefter reported that Dan Mullen is not ruling it out to maybe go to the NFL. So, yeah.
I'm sorry?
He slid that in at the end
Whoa.
of ESPN's like 30
Dear
seconds with
goodness.
Schefter.
2020's off to a bang. 21, excuse me.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what to think. But
yeah, all right. Anyways, well, I'm so glad the Magic had such a good week to cheer you up from all that,
really
good news, right?
It was a great sports week.
Yeah,
really,
let's jump into the state of the Magic right now, Luke. So 1-2 on the week, win on the road in OKC, 118-107 on Tuesday, followed by 2 losses at home, a New Year's Eve blowout loss at home to the 76ers, 116-92, and it wasn't even that close. And then Saturday they lost 108-99 to the Thunder. They are currently third in the Eastern Conference standings behind Philadelphia and Indiana, sitting at 4-2 on the year. Luke, it's too early to look at standings, right?
It wasn't when we were,
See,
what was it,
exactly.
4-0, so.
And I hate, like, between the two of us, right? Don't get me wrong. You're usually the pessimist. I'm usually the optimist.
Yeah.
That's fair?
Yeah, very fair.
4-0. We're gonna get into this, but I saw this coming from a mile away. I hate to say that.
You did.
But I knew it was BS. And
yeah, you did.
Not that this team is terrible. Not
Uh-huh.
that this team is terrible, right? But I saw some concerning red flags. And we're 4-2. Again, we're third in the Eastern Conference. I looked all over the place at 538 in Basketball Reference. Nobody has like updated playoff probabilities or anything like that. I think last week you told us 538 had us pretty high, like in the 70th percentile or something like that. As far as, yeah, I couldn't find it. Maybe you can pull that up while we're sitting here talking. But we're gonna get more into the concerns that I have and kind of why I was concerned. We'll get into the numbers more in a moment. I'm gonna give us a really quick recap of the Oklahoma City game. We're recording this Sunday night, obviously, so that game was just last night. So I'm sure you guys have heard enough about the first Oklahoma City game, and nobody wants to talk about the New Year's Eve loss to the 76ers. We're leaving 2020 in 2020. So let's talk about the OKC game really quickly. So I thought the Magic came out with better energy than they did on Thursday night, obviously. They defended pretty well, holding OKC to 36% shooting in the first quarter while shooting 50% themselves, good for a 33-28 lead after the first quarter. But the problem is, Luke, that after the first quarter, the Magic shot 28 of 84, good for 33% for the rest of the game. The Magic were trailing by 2 heading into the fourth quarter, and then were down by as much as 8 with 4:37 to go in the game. Cut the lead to 4 with 3 minutes to go, and then down the stretch, Oklahoma City hit their shots. The Magic could not, and they lost 108-99. So were you able to find that 538 for us?
I got sidetracked by other things like the box score for the OKC one, but no, I saw it today. It was like 70 or 65 or something like that. I mean, the chances are going down a little bit.
It's not time to hit the panic button, but it's just like, especially, and I don't know, I think people sometimes take things the wrong way because, like I'm very animated and emotional when it comes to this team. So like after 2 losses like that and like knowing in my brain what this team needs to do to win games, and they know it too. Like I'm not trying to sound like I'm smarter than them or anything like that. But for them to come out and just continue to perform the way that they've been performing and make the decisions that they've been making, I just know that it's a recipe for disaster for this team. So
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
get so
and-
frustrated when I see them play like that.
Oh yeah, and by the way, it's 65% from 538 now. It was like 77, 80% last week. Obviously, things are going to change. That percentage is going to go everywhere. But they had I think they had Orlando at like 38 and 34 to finish the season at, and now it's 36 and 36. So, but to be completely honest with you, Jonathan, a 36 and 36 year. You tell me that we go 36 and 36 heading into the season? Nah, I'm not. Ain't no complaints.
I would have took it.
I would take it. So, yeah, no. I mean, last night, I wouldn't say I expected it, but I mean, they had.
I asked you before
Horford
the game
back.
if the game was a lock win. I asked you that before the game. I was like, "Is tonight a lock?"
You
for us
did,
to
and
win?
I said it should be. That was my
Right.
response. So it felt like it should have been, but then you got guys that have other plans, such as MCW, who shoots 18% from the field.
2 of 11.
Markel shoots 31%, 5 of 16. Yeah, 2 of 11 for MCW.
Dwayne Bacon,
Cole
2 of
Anthony,
11.
1 for 7.
Yep. It was
I mean,
rough.
that's terrible. That is terrible, and that's just one of those nights where nothing's really going your way. But it is. I mean, and Terrence Ross, who, by the way, I mean, you might be getting into some of those stats about, unless you already listed them, I can't remember, but about kind of the red flags you had, and how Orlando just coming back down to earth. But Terrence Ross shoots well last night. He starts out incredible. He cools off a little bit. Then he finishes the night 9 for 21. I mean, and Vucevic is Vucevic. I mean, what, dude, 30 and 13?
Isn't like I don't mean to be like the
you can't
guy
ask
that's
for
like
anything else from him.
I don't want to be the guy that's like Vucevic is the best player ever and da. But the amount of people that were so upset when we re-signed him and just like the level that he's continued to produce at last year in the regular season, the knock was, oh, let's see him do this in the playoffs. Absolutely destroyed the Bucks in that series, even though we lost. And now it's like, okay, well, let's see what he can really do. And now he's continuing to do that so far this season. So he's just been amazing. And we'll talk more about Vooch in a moment.
Do you
Go ahead.
think what this might be a topic changer? I don't know. But last night, Evan Fournier out due to injury. If Orlando has Evan Fournier, I mean, what, MCW probably plays less.
We win this
Definitely
game.
plays less. You win
I think
that
that's
game.
fair to say. I think that's fair.
Yeah. So, and that goes back to, you talk about people who, with the Vooch signing and all that stuff. Me and you, before the season, we're talking about it. Like, he's good as gone, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't know if Evan Fournier is getting moved.
The way that he's
Unless
been
you're ready
playing
to
so
go
far,
full tank mode, or if you're ready to tank a little bit or a lot of it, if you're ready to tank, or if you're actually able to get what he's worth, then it's different. But I mean, it's hard. That's difficult unless someone wants the expiring, and which could happen, but you're probably not going to get the return you want.
So let's talk really quickly just Evan stats. So first of all, last year 18.5 points per game. Okay, 46.7% from the floor on 14 shot attempts, 39.9, basically 40% from 3 on 6.6 attempts. This year, 14.8 points per game. He is shooting 51% from the floor on 9 attempts. Right now, he's at 34.8% from 3 on 4.6 attempts. Some of that drop in the 3-point percentage might be rhythm or whatever. But the thing with Evan, and yes, it kind of was a topic changer, but we'll wrap back around. The thing with Evan is it seems like, and the reason that people are starting to be like, hey, what do you think? And we're whispering this because you don't want to say it too loud because people that hate Evan really hate Evan and want him gone regardless.
Yeah.
But with Evan, it seems like, and we talked about this a little bit last week, I think, seems like he is playing more within himself, more within the offense, kind of letting Markel have a larger role. So if that is the case, I think it really all depends on how this team performs from now until the trade deadline. Like if we're way out of the playoffs, they might be like, all right, let's move this guy on. If we are competitive in that playoff race, like if we're, definitely going to make the 9 or the 10 seed, or if we're even like 7 or 8, somewhere in there, I could see them going, no, if we can talk to Evan, if he comes back on a team-friendly deal, let's bring him back. He's proven that he can let the other guys, have more of a shine. He can play, more within himself and everything like that. I don't know. I don't know that I'm ready to say that, but I don't think 2 weeks ago, if you would have said, hey, 6 games in, you're going to be saying maybe we should keep Evan, I would have said absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. No way. The thing that I wanted to ask you, when we were talking about Terrence, the other night against Oklahoma City, is I felt like that was really the first time that we saw Terrence force up some shots. I think especially in the second or third quarter, he took some shots where it's okay, Terrence is just trying to keep the hot hand going.
Yeah.
Where he was taking some ill-advised jumpers, and especially mid-range jumpers. We'll talk more about that in a bit. But this was the first game that I thought that, Terrence knew that he had it going. Evan's out, and he's I'm going to have to shoulder more of this offensive load here, even more than I have been usually lately. And he tried to force some things.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. You walk out with that second unit. What do you got around you? You got MCW. You got Cole Anthony, who is struggling to kind of find his rhythm. You got Chuma, who doesn't shoot the ball.
Well, last night didn't even have Chuma. We didn't mention that. Chuma went out the other night against the 76ers. I think sometime in the fourth quarter he went out when the game was pretty much already out of hand. He drives into the paint and tries to make a little spin move and tweaks his left knee. He's got a bone bruise. There hasn't been any ligament damage there, but he's expected to miss at least a few weeks. If you ask Woj, if you ask Josh Robbins and people closer to the Magic, there's no timetable or anything like that. So, Chuma's out for now.
All that to say, and to rehash, T. Ross walks out on the court, bench unit. Who do you have besides him that's going to go out and get you a bucket? Cole Anthony sometimes. But he's growing. That's not on him. He's learning. He's a rookie. He's very raw in that respect, but he's very confident, so he's going to shoot. So Terrence Ross, we know he's going to shoot, and he's going to shoot with no regard for anything else going on. He's just going to shoot. But guess what? The people who, let's say Terrence Ross cools off a little bit. If you're complaining when T. Ross cools off a little bit, shooting the exact same shots that he shot when he was hot, and you were celebrating that, don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. You shouldn't talk about it because T. Ross, he's going to shoot. He's going to take whatever shots that he wants. He's a shooter. If he gets hot, it's over. You love when Terrence Ross gets hot. He's one of the most fun players on our team, if not the most fun on our team. So, I have no problem with him kind of forcing shots the other night because guess what? Those same shots go in sometimes, and we're all ecstatic about it. So, T. Ross is kind of dealing with the hand that he's been dealt. He knows he's the guy. Could he start on our team? Yeah, he could start. They could find a way to go smaller, and T. Ross could start easy. But they know that if you don't have him on the bench, coming off the bench, you got Aaron Gordon coming off the bench maybe, and that's not going to be good. So
no, I think the move would be, if you're going to start Terrence, the move would be to move either him or Evan to the 3, and then Dwayne Bacon would be coming off of the bench. But then what do you have coming off the bench? Then, you're really putting a lot more pressure on Cole. And then, you're asking Dwayne Bacon to do a lot. You're asking Gary Clark to do a lot. So
I feel the best about asking Terrence Ross to do a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Terrence is definitely one of the most fun players, on the team right now, coming off of the bench. He's going to have nights like that, especially, like I said, with Evan out, where he's going to need to force things a little bit. I wanted to ask you about Cole. So we mentioned that Cole shot 1 of 7 from the floor, has had some rough shooting games to start the season. One, what do you think exactly is going on? Why the inefficiency? And 2, are you worried about Cole?
He's young. He's what? He's 20 years old. He's 20. He's trying to find his rhythm. Now, what I'll say about Cole is there's some inklings there that Cole's might be a chucker for his career. He's going to drive in. He's going to get swatted a few times. He's not a huge guy. That being said, he's great at finishing through contact, but sometimes he goes in, kind of head down, gets swatted into the stands, and that'll happen with him. He's a rookie. He's trying to find his rhythm line flow, like we've said. But I wouldn't be too surprised if he ends up being a guy that never really shoots above 44%. I don't know if that's overreacting, but just from seeing that, I mean, usually he's a rookie and he's very confident, so he's going to shoot, but he's still going to be confident his whole career. It's just a matter of can he start making those shots and finding his rhythm and flow in the offense. If he does, it'll improve a little bit, but I mean, it should improve. He's shooting 31% from the field right now on 9 attempts.
So the other night you actually texted me that. You're like, I'm not sure if this guy ever shoots over, 43, 44% or whatever.
Right.
And at first I was like, I really don't know. I feel like that's, kind of early. But then I started doing some digging. So, who shoots roughly about 43% from the floor for their career? Damian Lillard. I'm not saying Cole is going to be Damian Lillard, but it's if you're a bit of a chucker, it definitely can still benefit a team. Like, nobody's saying that Damian Lillard is not one of the best point guards in the league. You know what I'm saying? So that's not necessarily a huge negative. Now, Damian Lillard also shoots pretty close to 40% from 3 every year as well. So it's a pretty big deal, right? So the reason we're talking about Cole right now to start the season, through 6 games, almost 20 minutes a game, 8.7 points, 5 rebounds a game, 3.3 assists, averaging 30% from the floor and 20% from 3 so far. So the threes, I feel like sometimes he just feels like he's got to get a shot up. Like you said, he might be a little bit of a chucker. But it still seems like he just needs the game to slow down. And that happens for every rookie, probably around, game 25 or 30, somewhere in there if I just had to guess. I think 20 games from now, Cole is going to be a much different player than he is right now. I'm not worried about it. I mean, I'm worried about the entire team's offense as a whole. So I'm not just going to jump on Cole Anthony and be like, oh, this is what he's doing wrong with the ball in his hands. Is he making some mistakes? Yes. Is he forcing some things? Yes. Does he look like a rookie? Yes. He is a rookie.
Yeah,
so,
and what I said, some people might have caught it, but I thought you were going to say that the field goal percentage reminds you of Devin Booker. Devin Booker now has gotten a lot better. Devin Booker shoots like 48, 49% now, but early on, like his first 3 years, couldn't get over that like 43.5 mark. Devin Booker also. I
also don't think Cole Anthony is Devin Booker though.
Oh no, don't get me wrong.
I think Cole can be very good, but
the parallel there is just like with Lillard. It is chucker, will shoot at will if he has to. If he wants to get points, he's going to chuck, and it might not be the most efficient. Granted, Devin Booker probably is always going to average more 3-point attempts a game than Cole Anthony ever does, because Cole Anthony is good about getting to the basket. But yeah, Cole Anthony might get there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does settle in that 42, 43% by the time his career is all over. I hope he has a long one. And I hope it's with Orlando. I hope he kind of finds a stride with Orlando. I would hate to see another player go on and find the rhythm somewhere else. So
much too early to be talking like that. Much too early to be talking like that. So we've been kind of hinting at the issues with the Orlando offense and some of the red flags, that I saw this past week. Just really trying to dig into the numbers and see if what the eye test was telling me could be validated by stats. So, Luke, let me go through this with you. None of this is really going to be surprising, I think, and I tweeted a lot of this out, but these are the most updated stats on this. So, per bpstats.com, they've created their own metric when it comes to shot quality. Okay, and you can go to their website. It's like 15 pages long. It's ridiculous. It is somewhat flawed, but I think if you read that, there's a lot of stuff in there that makes sense. So the Magic ranked 30th in shot quality right now for the entire league. What shot quality? They take the worst shots in the league, and when you look at the numbers, I think that is reflected. So everyone knows the most of the best shots that you can take in basketball are going to be an open layup, a wide open 3. Those are like the most efficient shots that you can take. So right now, the Magic rank last in the league in field goal attempts in the restricted area. And these are attempts, not percentage. So they're last in the league, field goal attempts in the restricted area. They are first in field goal attempts that are in the paint, but not the restricted area. They are first in the league in field goal attempts in the mid-range. They are 27th in the league in 3-point field goal attempts. They are 15th in offensive rating so far. They are 13th in defensive rating so far. What that tells me is that they are taking terrible shots. Those first, 3-4 games, they were knocking down those shots at a ridiculous clip. That buoyed the offense, right? They were, one of the top scoring teams in the entire league through those first 4 games. The last 2 games we know have been atrocious, and now they're starting to come back down a little bit. And then just off of Steve Clifford's, attention to defense and schemes alone, also playing terrible offensive teams so far, like Washington, like Oklahoma City, that has also buoyed their defensive rating a little bit. So I don't think this team is as good as those ratings show us right now. So all those numbers I've thrown at you so far, thoughts?
I mean, you brought that to our attention. I think you tweeted it out when Orlando was 4-0, maybe 3-0. Can't remember. Regardless,
I think 4-0.
You sent that to me, and I said, "Oh boy." See, I wasn't. Yes, I was shocked that Orlando was 4-0, but Orlando had not played great teams besides Miami, and that was it. And Miami kind of has gotten off to a little bit of a shaky start. So I don't know that the 4-0 thing said a lot about Orlando. What does say a lot about Orlando are those stats and percentages that you talked about. Now, while I'll say, like I said, I was surprised that Orlando started out 4-0 because they were finally beating the teams they should beat. And if a good team, a playoff team, does that, they beat the teams that they should beat and put up a fight against the teams that they might not be able to beat. 76ers were a great example of that. Orlando was not competitive. Had about the same shot selections. I mean, it's not surprising once you look at those stats at all. Some Magic fans who were saw Orlando as 4-0, the casual fan might just say, Magic are good this year. I don't know that that's the case. The Magic are a decent NBA team with a lot to figure out. So I hope that Orlando kind of gets their stuff together. I hope defensively gets their stuff together. But I just don't know with the talent level of this team, or kind of lack of, with rookies trying to find themselves. Evan Fournier trying to basically has a contract year. Vucevic is just trying to backpack the team. T. Ross is backpacking the bench unit. Like I said, before the year, if you told me that the Magic go 500, I'm ecstatic. And that's really all you need to know. Like, 4-0 is a great start, but tamper your expectations a little bit, or a lot. I mean, you're not going to end the season top 3-4 in the East. I don't think. I hope I'm wrong. So please, guys, don't take this as me kind of just trying to put a damper on everything. But this past week kind of brought to our attention what we knew was coming.
Well, I don't think you're necessarily putting a damper on everything. We're still saying this team is a decent team, right? I'm not trying to say the Magic are bad or atrocious or anything like that. What I'm trying to point out here is the offensive numbers that we saw in the first few games. We're talking about 113 against the Heat, 130 against Washington, 120 against Washington, and then 118 against Oklahoma City, right? The 2 games since then, since the scoring is kind of, the shooting is kind of cooled down, we're looking at 92 points and then 99 points. Now, last year, Washington, I believe, was all-time, a historically bad defensive team. So the fact that we put up those crazy numbers against Washington really shouldn't go as a surprise to anybody, okay? But what I'm trying to point out is if the Magic continue to run their offense this way, it's not sustainable to keep shooting like that each night. It's not going to be a recipe for success. If the Magic keep taking the type of shots that they are taking, if they keep running the offense the way that they've been running it, if you tell me that the Magic do that for the rest of the season and they don't end up a playoff team, I wouldn't be surprised at all, because we're seeing them take, low efficiency shots, the mid-range shots, the shots in the paint that aren't in the restricted area. Okay, they're not defending at a super high level either. Okay, and then when they do have some kind of offensive rhythm, they want to disrupt it by playing what I call the my turn offense, where it's been a few series, I haven't touched the ball, I haven't got a shot up in a while. Well, now it's my turn to go and get a shot attempt, and we've just seen that too many times, especially during the runs where these teams will extend the lead on us, or we'll have a little bit of a lead and then they want to come back, and it's just not good for the offense. So I definitely think that, and we can actually, this will kind of help us segue into our next segment here, where we talk about Clifford and his reluctance to quote unquote coach decisions. If Clifford doesn't go to the team and be like, hey, these are the shots that we're getting, they're not sustainable for a good offense. This is not what we were seeing last year when the pace picked up and we were scoring high numbers. We were seeing great ball movement. We were seeing Markelle Fultz running the offense, doing a great job of it, and we were seeing guys knock down threes. Now, guys really aren't knocking down threes very effectively right now, outside of a few guys, and it's just not. It's not a product that is going to win you a lot of games with that offense. So, but let's talk about this, Luke. So when I everyone might be wondering what I mean when I say Clifford, and I put it in quotations, him coaching decisions. A couple of years ago, his first year with the Magic, it was after a loss or something like that, and one of the reporters in the postgame presser asked him, what do you do about shot selections, or I forget exactly how the question was phrased, but his response was, I am not a fan of coaching decisions. Meaning, and what I took from it was, coaching the decisions that players make on the floor. Am I going to make this pass? Am I going to take this shot? What am I going to do? And we've seen it now happen so many times. Last year it was DJ. At times he would, make these behind the back passes that resulted in turnovers, or a guy would be wide open. He would throw this behind the back pass. It'd be a poor pass. They wouldn't be able to, collect the ball and get a good shot up or anything like that. And now we're seeing it so far this season in a few games, what we've seen from Michael Carter-Williams. Last night especially, shot 2 of 11 from the floor. I think he was 0 for 4 from the three-point line, if I'm not mistaken. And we're seeing him continue to take open threes or open mid-range jumpers. A lot of people, Luke, are going to argue that that guy needs to be confident and he needs to take those shots. I think that we've seen enough evidence that Michael Carter-Williams should not be shooting jump shots.
Shooters shoot, Jonathan. That's the phrase, right?
That is correct.
MCW, my boy, you're not a shooter at all. And it's it's clear to everybody but Cliff, apparently. And I guess MCW, I don't know. Maybe if I'm in the NBA and I'm not a shooter, but I'm a guard, if you leave me wide open, I feel disrespected. I'm going to shoot a three. But there's a reason you're left open. MCW is left more open than Ben Simmons gets left open from three. And he still lets it fly.
Who hit a three on us the other night, by the way.
Which, by the way, set the tone. I knew exactly how the night was going to go when Ben Simmons hit a three. Then Dwight Howard capped it off, really bookended it for us at the end with a three of his own. Whatever. Yeah, no, MCW needs to slow down a little bit. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that looks like Cliff telling him, don't shoot that, or what. And
it's not just Michael Carter-Williams. I'm not trying to pile on Michael Carter-Williams. That's just the most recent example that we have of Cliff being reluctant.
He's the most
to coach
prevalent
decisions.
example this year.
Right. I mean, the other night against Philadelphia, we're coming down. I don't know if we were bringing the ball up. I think it was transition, because I think, Aaron, it was probably 1 or 2 on Philadelphia's 4. And I said Philadelphia, not Dalphia.
Thank you.
I know you like to pick on me about that.
Thank you, Philadelphia.
I don't know where that came from, but
me either.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And so he's on the break, and he just pulls up a three with 19 seconds on the shot clock. I don't have to tell you the result of that shot. It didn't go in. But stuff like that, if you're keeping your team accountable the way that Clifford likes to preach about accountability on a team, in my opinion, the number one person in the organization that is in charge of player accountability while they're on the floor is the head coach.
Yeah.
And if you are not coaching the team and making in-game decisions to, make an example that you're going to keep guys accountable and they can't just do whatever they want to do on the floor. Because if the guys are going to do whatever they want to do on the floor, then what is the coach there for?
Right.
He's non-existent if they're not taking what he's saying and what he's teaching them and what he's coaching them to do, if they're just going to do whatever they want anyways, that's what's called tuning a coach out. And when a coach is tuned out, it's not too long after that we see a guy get fired. Now, I'm not saying they're tuning Coach Clifford out. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not even saying they should fire Clifford or anything like that. I think that would be a gigantic mistake. He's taken this team from nowhere to somewhat relevancy, making the playoffs and everything like that.
Yeah.
However, he is not a perfect coach. And just like players are open to criticism, I think Clifford is also open to criticism as well, as long as it's fair. My issue, especially with the phrase that he used in coaching decisions, is that is essentially what a coach does. When we talk about Clifford, Coach Clifford, Steve Clifford, and we think about staples of a Steve Clifford team, it's defending at a high level. It is not turning the ball over. Classically, it is kind of ignoring the offensive rebound so that your team can get back on defense and your defense can be set. All of those things, you have to coach your players to make certain decisions while they're on the floor. They don't force passes, right? They don't crash the offensive glass. They compete and they give effort on the defensive end, and they pay attention to the schemes that you've put in place. You are coaching decisions at that point. Yeah. I don't think that shot selection should fall out of that realm. When we see guys repeatedly take bad shots, the thing with Aaron Gordon, right? If he had a Greg Popovich or a Pat Riley or Phil Jackson, someone like that, or a Steve Kerr, they would have taken him aside a long time ago and been like, listen, buddy, you are not Paul George. I know what Frank Vogel told you, but you are not Paul George. You need to be a more athletic, more dynamic Draymond Green. People have been saying that for 5 years now about Aaron Gordon. And the fact that every coach he's ever had has let him go out and try to be Paul George is to his detriment.
Yeah.
He would be a much better player if a coach or another veteran, we don't really have that kind of guy on the team, on the roster, to tell him that. But had he had someone like that, and whether or not Aaron's going to listen to that, I have no idea, right?
I think it's over. He is who he
is.
is.
Right, exactly, and it's fair. He's a good player. He's not great, but he's a good player.
Would you want to go from Paul George to Draymond Green as a player? No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But if it's Phil Jackson, I'm going to listen to him.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's telling me to go from Michael Jordan to Carlos Arroyo. All due respect, if it's Phil Jackson, I'm going to listen. That's just, it is what it is. So that's my mini rant on Coach Clifford and you know his coaching decisions, the way that he liked to phrase it. At least once, he might have completely forgot that he ever said that. Clifford might be out there and be like, what the heck is this kid talking about? I never said that. I know you just said it if you're listening. I know you're not Cliff, but if you are. So that's it, Luke. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, last year it was DJ Augustine. And guess what? The way the DJ Augustine thing got solved, he's bye. He's bye-bye. That's it. No more DJ Augustine. And guess what? I love this Markelle Fultz, even with his struggles as of late, more than I do last year's Markelle Fultz. So I've seen flashes this year without DJ Augustine. So, I mean, I'm with you on that one. Hopefully something changes. I don't know if that is them getting dealt. Maybe that's when that changes.
Last thing about Michael Carter Williams, and I hate to accuse a coach of like nepotism or favoritism, but there just seems to be a common thread, common theme with Michael Carter Williams.
Like, I don't know if he brings Cliff lunch or what it is, but
I don't know what it is. I don't know if he buys him lunch, bakes him cookies. I mean, he competes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take away from the edge, the competitiveness that Michael Carter Williams brings. He really does. It's just offensively, sometimes I wish he just wouldn't touch the ball. Like that's the best way that I can put it. But there's just something there. Like Cliff just loves Michael Carter Williams so much that he's going to let him get on the floor. And at times, it seems like he's going to let him do whatever he wants. Because I got to tell you, if it was me, and I'm trying not to get too mean here, but if I'm coaching like my kid's Pee-wee team, and there's a kid out there shooting threes who has no business, I'm going to be like, hey, stop shooting threes or you're riding the pine pony, homie.
All that to say, do you think it's chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin?
Oh, my goodness. Let's move on. So we talked a little bit about Markelle struggling. Okay, you mentioned it a moment ago. So I wanted to look into that a little bit because I think the eye test and the numbers match up. Now, anyone listening out there, we know this is a small sample size, but what else do we got to talk about this week? Let's talk about it. So is Markelle struggling? So we've got 6 games so far, 4 wins, 2 losses. Through the first 3 games, Markelle was averaging 20.6 points per game, 4.3 assists, shooting 48% from the floor. The last 3 games, Luke, he is averaging 10.7 points per game, 7.3 assists, shooting 30% from the floor. We've seen him miss layups that he is usually automatic at. We have seen him miss a lot of mid-range jumpers. And I want to be like, is he really missing more mid-range jumpers than last year? So last year, Markelle shot 41% on mid-range jumpers. For some reason, I thought he was automatic. 40%, that's still pretty decent. So far this year, he's just shooting 21% from the mid-range. So, Luke, do you feel like Markelle is struggling? And if you do, why?
I mean, he's definitely struggling. There's not really any ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now,
the numbers are pretty clear, I think.
Yeah, but then it's like, okay, so what's his normal? Because he starts out the year, 49% from the field. And I don't know if that's really going to happen for this year at least. I'd say that the truth is in the middle somewhere. I think he can get to 45% from the field this year. But, yeah, I mean, he's definitely struggling right now. There's really no question. You just read the stats. He's literally the definition of struggling. But the good news is we're 6 games into the year. So, the people who might have said that people that doubt Markelle and love to do that might have said, oh, well, it's only been a few games. It's only been a few games. Who cares if that's what if he's doing so well? Well, then I can say the same thing to you now where it's just a few games. It's only a few games. So, that being said, I think Markelle can right the ship. I think that he'll be, back to himself pretty soon here, and I think he's going to be better than he was last year. He's got an increased role in the offense. He's got kind of the keys here. I'm not hitting the panic button about Markelle, though he definitely is struggling right now.
Well, I mean, if we're being totally fair here, I have been posting like most improved Markelle Fultz Photoshop trophies. So we kind of were, giving him that pretty early on. But with Markelle, I just think he's in a slump. I mean, players go through that. He had an incredible first 3 games. I mean, I think it is a little bit telling the jump in his assist numbers. So from 4.3 the first 3 games to 7.3, seems like part of that might be his shooting struggling. So he's thinking, all right, let me try to get other guys more involved. But it doesn't look like it's his energy. I don't think it's conditioning, right? He's still getting those good looks at the rim. He's just not been converting those as high of a clip. So I think another few games, it might even be tomorrow night, he might shake off whatever is going on and get right back to where he was before.
We were talking about, and we'll wrap this conversation about Markelle, but we were talking about last week, I think, Markelle needs to. You asked me something about Markelle and his campaign for MIP, that type of thing. And I said I'd like some more assists. It was a simple request. Just give me some more assists. And that very next game, he gave us more assists, Jonathan, but he shot 4 for 16 from the field. Gave us 10 assists actually. Had a double-double. So, and if that is what a bad Markelle Fultz game is, I'll take it. If you can give me 11 and 10 on a bad night, I'll take it. So, maybe that is a good thing that kind of his shooting going down a little bit, he's working more on facilitating. I think Markelle is going to be a great facilitator. His vision didn't really add up to where his assists per game were, last year or early this, first 3 games of the season. It's still early, guys. So I think Markelle is going to be just fine. He's going to kind of find a balance. He's trying to find himself in this offense too. It's his first year without DJ Augustine being there for him to be put in the corner and, have to worry about, DJ Augustine. So I think that he's going to be fine. He's going to figure it out, and he's a great player. He's talented. So I really have no worries about Markelle.
All right, so let's talk about 2 guys, Luke, who are definitely not struggling. So first off, I want to talk about how good is Vooch? Like, how good has Vooch been this year? And I want to give you a couple of numbers before we get into this conversation because it's really just ridiculous. So I looked up, the best shooting centers in the league. So this is for centers who are shooting at least 3 threes a game, so at least 3 3-point field goal attempts per game. Vooch is second in the league in those players in 3-point percentage at 48.5%. He's behind only Julius Randle, who is shooting 50% on threes, but Julius Randle is shooting almost 2 less attempts a game from the three-point line. Vooch right now is averaging 21.5 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, 52% from the floor, and again, 48.5% from three. So a lot of people were asking, like, was this bubble Vooch, who was shooting 45% or whatever it was from three in the bubble? He could just be on a hot streak right now, Luke, but is this for real, and how good is Vooch?
So he's shooting 48.5%. Need I remind you guys that Aaron Gordon started a few years back shooting about 48% from three.
Okay,
And
I'm going to stop you right there. This is not the same conversation. I know what you're saying, but good grief, what a comparison.
It is.
You really dug deep for that one. I got to tell you, don't hurt yourself reaching.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but it's the same concept. He's gonna come back down to earth. I mean, this is a guy last year who shot 34% from three on 4.7 attempts. So he's gonna come back down to earth. The good news is he's found his rhythm from beyond the arc in this offense early, which is a very good thing. I would assume he probably peters out around 42%, 40%. 40% probably is where I'll say he'll end.
I was just about to ask you, where is coming back down to earth? Because you're talking about from 34 to 48. I think those reps he was taking in his neighbor's driveway during quarantine really made a big difference.
Yeah, I'd say that Vooch gets to 40,
which is ridiculous.
I hope it's 40. Now, don't get me wrong. It could be 37, 38, which, by the way, fine with me. So, yeah, if you can get him playing that way with Fournier kind of playing his role, staying in his lane in the offense, shooting his percent from three that he shot last year. That's a good duo. I know you guys are gonna hate that comment, but that's a good duo.
I think we're looking at another All-Star year out of Vooch. I really do. If the Magic are able to stay competitive in the playoff race and come time for the reserve voting and everything, he's not going to be a starter. Let's just get that out of the way. But, it's coaches that vote on these reserves. And if Vooch is putting up, 21 points, almost 12 rebounds a game, shooting close to 40% from three, and the Magic have a respectable record, they're going to look.
Big part.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if the Magic are, the 12 seed or something like that, it's not going to matter. But I think coaches will look and they'll be like, okay, this was a guy who, when he was putting up, I think it was like 20 and 10, shooting, like close to 40% from three 2 years ago, was an all-star. So when you look around the East, at other big men, you got Joel Embiid, you got Domantas Sabonis, you got Bam Adebayo. Like, it's definitely going to be competitive, but maybe he doesn't make the all-star team because some of those guys have taken such a big step forward. But he's definitely going to put up numbers similar to what made him an all-star 2 years ago. And after we re-signed Vooch, people were like, what are we doing? He was just in a contract year, blah, 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 blah. He's going to regress, this, that, and the third. You heard that at the beginning of last season when he wasn't playing up to the same level.
Yeah.
That, oh, my goodness, he's regressing. We signed this guy, what a waste of money. And now he's right back up to that all-star level so far to start the season. Again, small sample size. The three-point shooting I don't think is sustainable. 48%, good grief. But like you said, even if he's somewhere like in the high 30s, which, his shooting would just have to drop off a cliff at this point to drop below that, like back down to the mid-30s or something close to that. But, man, just what a season Vooch is having so far. If it wasn't for Vooch, Terrence, and Evan, we're looking at an 0-6 team really, really easily. I hope people realize that.
He said Evan. You guys heard that right, and he's absolutely correct.
Evan was the big scorer in the first game against Miami, 25 points. Since then, it's been Ross. I texted you last night, you and best friend Drew, if you're listening.
Right.
I texted you guys last night, and I said, without spectacular shooting guard play, this team is 0-6, and that's not even a hot take. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
not for Evan killing it the
Yeah.
first game and Terrence killing it the next 3 games, this team's 0-6 right now. So let's talk about Terrence, Luke. Obviously Terrence is off to an incredibly hot start. I don't even have his season numbers in front of me. Good grief. Let me pull these up here. I pulled up a bunch
They're good.
of
Spoiler alert.
analytics here. Yeah, they're very good. So right now, 28 minutes a game, 22 points, 49% from the floor, 43.8 from the three-point line. Like, the Human Torch is lit, as David Steele would like to say.
Yes.
So the question that I have, Luke, is whether or not the scoring numbers, whether or not they're sustainable. So last year, I think he was around 13 or 14 points a game after having, a career year in the 18-19 season. Again, we re-signed Terrence. He gets off to especially a slow start last season. He was dealing with a knee issue. Took him a little bit of time to get healthy. But people were like, here we go again. Another guy that's regressing. We shouldn't have re-signed him, everything like that.
Yeah.
So jumping from that to 22 points a game, if he does that for the entire season, 1, he's the 6th man, and 2, sorry, Markel, Terrence Ross would be your most improved player. Like, it wouldn't even be close.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look at Terrence's shooting numbers, the percentages at which he's taking from what distance, and the percentages of those makes relative to his career numbers. So let me go through this. I'm going to try to go through it slowly because it confused me. I don't want to confuse the listeners here. So his percentage of field goal attempts by distance. So how many shots is he taking from where on the floor compared to his career numbers? So his averages for his career, the attempts that he's taking from these different spots on the floor. So his 2-point percentage in the restricted area, the amount of shots he's taking in the restricted area, is down compared to the rest of his career. Shots from 3 to 10 feet are up this year compared to the rest of his career. Shots from 10 to 16 feet are up. His shots from 16 to the 3-point line are up. And then his shots from the 3-point line, the percentage of threes that he takes, are down. So this is going exactly in the trend of the rest of the team. All of those mid-range jumpers are up. The most efficient shots, especially for Terrence, in the restricted area are down. And from the 3-point line are down. So when we look at the field goal percentage by the distance compared to, we've already confirmed that he's taking more mid-range jumpers. So let's look at the field goal percentage by distance compared to his career numbers. They're literally, every single one of those stats I listed, his field goal percentage is up. So he is shooting career-high field goal percentages right now while taking not the best shots. And we've seen this, right? We talked about some of the shots that he's forcing and some of the shots that he's just making with guys in his face or guys are closing out on him. He's taking a hard dribble into the mid-range, pulling up and going in. And some of these are just like, good grief, this guy just cannot miss.
Yeah.
So based off of those numbers, do you think that Terrence's scoring is sustainable?
No, I don't. I don't think that he's gonna be able to stay at the 22 mark. We might, but here's the other thing. If he's got confidence going into this, again, he looks around, coming off that bench unit. I mean, he might not have a choice, but I don't think it'll stay that efficient necessarily. The one thing that I will say is T. Ross is getting to the free throw line, more than he ever has in these first 6 games. Granted, like we've said a million times, it's just 6 games, but typically, let's see, his most average times of the free throws a game was last year 2.7 attempts a game. Right now he's at 4.4, and by the way, he's shooting 91%, 90.9. So, and that's also would be a career high. Granted, he's usually a good free throw shooter. He's typically the last few years in the 87, 86 range, around there. So if he can continue to get to the free throw line, it's kind of a lot of this is paralleled with the whole team. Like you said, his efficiency, where he's shooting from, parallels a lot with where the Magic rank in shooting and where from on the field, on the court. Same thing with free throws. We talked about it, I think, last week. The Magic were just getting to the free throw line. That I think it was against OKC. But was that the night that or was that against Washington where
The Washington
Orlando
with the
shot
38
like
free throws.
30?
Yeah, and that was another thing that we
38 free
just
throws.
knew wasn't going to be sustainable. You don't go a team from shooting, 18, 19 free
Right.
throws a night, all of a sudden up to 30. It just doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't
But-
happen.
Right, but regardless, T. Ross has been getting the free throw line more. So there's the other parallel. T. Ross and
Again,
kind of his
Small sample size. It's kind of buoyed by the 8 field goal attempts that he had free throw attempts that he had against Washington. Every other game, we're looking at 4, 4, 4, 1. So,
well, which by the way,
it's
I
a
mean,
small
even
sample
if he
size. All of this is a small sample size.
Even-
all this data that we have.
Yeah, I'm done giving you guys disclaimers. It's a small sample size. It's early in the season. But regardless, even if he shoots, the 4 from the line, I mean, he's still shooting 4 a game, which, by the way, is still a career high. So,
Right.
yes, he's missing more in the restricted area, but he's also getting fouled more. So, some of those, as we know, T. Ross loves to get fouled from the 3-point line as well. So, I think that T. Ross is going to be a pivotal part in this team regardless, but especially if Orlando can have a respectable record, maybe in the season at 500. It would be great. But yeah, I think T. Ross will, come back down. He might average a career high in points. It looks that way. But again, it all factors into efficiency. I hope he can end at 17, 18 a game, which is where Evan usually is. So who knows? Maybe he and Evan are going to do a swap, and Evan's going to average 14 a game this year. So I don't know. But Terrence Ross, like we've said multiple times, one of the most exciting players, if not the most exciting player on this team. When he gets hot, it's a lot of fun. When he dunks from the baseline, it's a lot of fun. So there's a lot of stuff about T. Ross to get excited about for this year, and something that could keep things afloat with alongside Vucevic and Fournier, while these younger guys like Markelle and Cole kind of figure it out.
I agree with you. I don't think the shooting is sustainable. I still think he's off to a great start. He's going to have a great year. I just think this entire Magic team needs to, take a look in the mirror and be like, the shots that we're taking right now and the offense that we're putting on the floor right now, the way that we're playing is not going to get it done. And they need to get back to the 18-19 Magic, especially, that 22-9 finish where they're moving the ball. Obviously, Vooch was playing out of his mind. We are knocking down open three-pointers. We got to get back to that somehow. Got to figure it out, or things could go bad really, really quickly. I mean, we're going to talk about it in a moment, this next slew of games that we're looking at on the roster.
Sheesh.
But it's definitely I cannot stress how important it is for this season. And this is the thing, Luke. I sound crazy because what were we saying 3 weeks ago about this season? It was a wash. And here we are, 6 games in, and I'm freaking out about the quality of shots that we're taking when we're freaking 4-2. Yeah. So I really shouldn't be complaining. We're freaking 4-2. So let's get into the next week of games, Luke. So Monday, tomorrow night, we have Cleveland at home, which is the start of like a home-and-home series against Cleveland. We face them again at home on Wednesday. Then Friday, we're at Houston. And Saturday, we're at Dallas. So thoughts on this week? How do you see it going?
I mean, well, first of all, we were talking about Vooch and making his all-star appearance and, things like that. Someone who didn't like his all-star appearance last time was a man by the name of Andre Drummond, who Orlando will be facing this week. I don't know if any of you guys recall, but Drummond had some tweet to the effect of Vucevic when he got selected over him.
We saw a lot of the Soulja Boy memes. Drake!
Yeah, right. So get to play them. It'll be fun to see, them play against each other, Vooch and Drummond. The Cavs are going to still be without Kevin Love, which bodes well for Orlando. But what doesn't bode well for Orlando is Sexland.
I knew it was coming. Oh, boy. I can't believe I just said that. Kids, if you're listening, close your ears. I shouldn't have even brought attention to that. Yes, we're talking about Darius Garland and Colin Sexton.
Yes.
They're playing out of their mind.
They are. I think Sexton's at 20, 22, 23, something a game. And then
I would just like to say,
Garland.
I don't remember what round it was, but I drafted Colin Sexton, and I knew he was going to be putting up numbers like this year. I didn't know that it would be in mostly winning efforts so far, but I'm proud to say that I saw the numbers coming from Colin Sexton.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's averaging 26 a game, 55% from 3 on 3.3 attempts. So it's some Julius Randle type stuff from 3. attempts wise and percentages. And then Darius Garland, I think he's at like 17 or something like that. So a great duo. I mean, you thought that Orlando had some trouble staying in front of guards before, but staying in front of Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, we're gonna have a lot of fun with that this week, back to back. You get 2 cracks at it, guys. So cheer up.
Well, I mean, we took both games against Washington. I don't think we're going to take both games against Cleveland. However, something that has become a trend with this Magic team over the last few years is playing up to your competition, but also playing down to your competition. So, like Oklahoma City, for instance, maybe not this past game. They had George Hill and they had Al Horford back in the lineup. But the first game, like that game shouldn't have been close on paper, right? But Isaiah Roby goes crazy. And, that game just shouldn't have been close.
No.
So same thing with the Cavs. I mean, the Cavs so far have been proven to be better than a lot of people thought coming into the year, mainly due to Sexland, right? However, we're going to play down to Cleveland. Those are going to be close games, I believe. At least I hope. I hope we don't get blown out again.
No thanks.
But then you're on the road against Houston, and you're on the road against Dallas. So the Magic, just the last couple of years historically, have not been a team that get blown out multiple games in a row. So one of those games, if not both of those games, those road games, are going to be close games. Like the Magic will get up for one of those 2 games. Now, it's a back-to-back, so you don't know, are they going to try to rest guys the first game? Are they going to try to rest guys the second game? Not really sure how all of that is going to work out. I think this week we go 2-2, and it comes one of 2 ways, quite obviously. You either sweep the Cavs and then you lose both games on the road, or you split it with the Cavs and then you split one of those road games.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's gonna be probably a split against Cleveland. I think you hope that the Rockets won't have James Harden because I think pretty close after that. Yeah. So Orlando
What's
plays
going on
them.
with Harden now? Like, he was fine, and now he's like not cleared to play. I haven't even been paying that close attention to the Harden situation.
I have no idea, but Houston has got a lot of good teams around Orlando when they play. They've got Mavs the 4th, Pacers the 6th, the Magic the 8th, Lakers the 10th, and Lakers the 12th. It wouldn't surprise me if Orlando gets a little lucky and Harden doesn't play against Orlando, because they've got some pretty good teams sandwiched around Orlando. I could see Harden resting. That's something that a lot of NBA teams are doing with superstars. They're resting a lot of their guys, in those times where they don't really have a break. And Cliff had said, like, I'm going to continue to play 9-10 guys because we don't have a superstar. So that's kind of Orlando's approach. So you won't see many guys resting, if ever. And then, with bigger teams, you kind of hope that one of their guys goes away, because I do not want to play James Harden and John Wall. So we'll see. John Wall probably will be enough for us that night.
Well, with the Magic right now, and given their injuries now, we're looking at Evan. Terrence is still dealing with the hamstring thing, but he seems to be feeling okay, well enough to play. Aaron Gordon, after the game last night, kind of mentioned, he's like, I'm kind of ready to be off of this minute restriction thing. We haven't really heard that officially from the team, but he kind of hinted at that. So maybe we'll see his minutes pick up. But then you're missing Chuma. You're still missing James Ennis.
Yep.
Mo Bamba. Still missing Aminu. I mean, if we're going to rest guys, who's going to play? You might as well just forfeit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I am happy to announce that James Harden's absence from the game the other night against the Kings was not gentleman establishment related. He had a sprained right ankle. So I guess Steven Silas heard just a few hours before tip-off that Harden's ankle was bothering him enough that he might miss the game.
Yeah.
So it must not be that big of a deal. Houston still beat the Kings. So I don't know. We're probably going to see Harden Friday night, but I'm really not sure. And then I'm not really all that excited to see us play Dallas, other than be able to see Wes Iwundu, our guy. Right. It'll be nice to see him and some of the Magic guys, link back up and everything like that. But Luke, this is the last thing that we wanted to talk about here. So the Houston game, on Friday in Houston. That is the start of an extremely rough. It is a 9-day, 6-game stretch. It starts at Houston, then at Dallas. That's a back-to-back. Then they have the day off, and then they're home for Milwaukee. They have another day off. Then they're at Boston, another day off, and then at Boston, at Brooklyn on a back-to-back. So people were circling this stretch when the Magic started 4-0. They're like, okay, they might beat the Thunder or the Sixers. Maybe they start 6-0 if they do that. Then you look at the Cavs. Maybe they can start 8-0. But then quickly that 6-game stretch. I mean,
you have got to win both games against Cleveland. You have to.
You could be looking at 8 straight losses if you lose both of those games.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to put like a must win on Orlando's schedule this early, but man, if you take what you're looking at realistically, maybe 6 L's in that 8-game stretch, hopefully not more than that. But you have to beat the team. Like I said, I don't think this is sustainable for Cleveland. I think that they got beat by the Knicks. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. They got beat by the Knicks. They're beatable. They don't have Kevin Love right now. You have to beat them. I don't think this is sustainable. They're also 4-2. I'm interested to see what happens in those games, but you have to beat them because that road ahead, man, is gonna hurt bad if you don't win both. And don't even get me started on if Orlando loses both games to Cleveland.
It definitely will not be great. It will not be ideal. I think it's going to be important to get Evan back. He's been dealing with some back spasms. He did not feel up to practicing today from what I've heard and what I've seen on Twitter. So we've got a game tomorrow. I'd be surprised if we see Evan in the lineup. Maybe he toughs it out. Back spasms are no joke. Coming from somebody that has a bad back, the back starts to act up, man. Sometimes I don't feel right for weeks. So not saying that's the case with Evan. I'm sure my back is in much worse shape than his. He's got a lot of people paying him a lot of money to play these games, so I'm sure they're making sure he's got the best care around the clock. But I'm right there with you. Prior to this conversation in the last few minutes, I didn't think that those were like must-win games against Cleveland. I was like, okay, maybe we split them. No, you need to win both of those games because this that 6-game stretch after that second Cavs game is looking pretty rough. We could be looking at a team 2 weeks from now that's either 500 or worse than that. So I'm sure the team knows that. I'm sure they'll come out ready to play tomorrow, especially after 2 straight losses. Excuse me. I don't know. I think we've had a couple of 3-4 game win streaks under Clifford. I don't think it's too many though. So hopefully the guys will bounce back. But Luke, I don't have anything else for this week. What about you? We're just almost hour and 10 minutes here.
Yeah, no, I'm
Chunky
good.
episode.
I just want to know how your Eagles are doing.
Eagles are starting the second half right now, down 14-17. So it's definitely closer than I thought it was going to be. Like midway through that first quarter when they were down 10-0. But yeah, it's going to be rough. This is what I said at the beginning of the season with the Giants. I expected them to win 5 or 6 games. They won 6 games. They went 6-10. I'm happy with that. I said if they win 7, I would be ecstatic. However, there's no way that I could have predicted that 6 games potentially would be enough to get us into the playoffs. Playoffs were the last thing on my mind. I was like, next year is the year that we need to be competitive enough to be in the playoff conversation. So, but now that we're here, I want to get in, and if we're in, you might as well go on and win the frickin' Super Bowl. So that's not going to happen, but, I mean, Giants teams have done stranger things in the past. But it would be cool, especially for Daniel Jones and some of our younger guys to get some playoff experience. But second half just started, Luke, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Dan Mullen stays in Gainesville. That'd be pretty rough.
That would be rough.
We won't talk about that too much.
We don't need to.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to the Sixth Man Show. As always, for Luke, this has been Jonathan, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.